Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Benjamin Chong Alvarez with the top economic reports. Coming up today, work conditions deteriorate in the gold mines of Western Central Africa, and Myanmar's tropical forests may face complete destruction. First, the headlines. Japan's economy rebounded greatly in the first quarter of this year as domestic demand jumped ahead of a major consumption tax rise. The Cabinet Office said on Thursday, gross domestic product grew at a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 5.9% in the first quarter. A rush in purchasing ahead of the April 1st sales tax increase fueled the growth of personal consumption expenditures. Private consumption rose an annualized 8.5%, helping the economy shrug off the effects of slow growth in the U.S., Japan's #1 export destination. But the front-loading of personal consumption in the first quarter is likely to lead to a slowdown in the second. German economic growth accelerated last quarter, helping the euro area's recovery offset an unexpected slump in France and Italy. German economic expansion doubled to 0.8% from the previous quarter, driven by domestic consumption. In a further sign that confidence in the economic outlook remains solid, the DAX stock index is trading near a record. But the widening divergence between Europe's largest economies complicates the trade bloc's recovery. And German investor confidence fell for a fifth month in May to the lowest level since January 2013, as industrial production and factory orders dropped in March. Official data on Thursday showed the French economy is having a hard time recovering from the recent downturn, posting zero growth for the first quarter of the year. The statistics agency had forecasted the economy would edge ahead with a meager growth of 0.1% between January and March. French Finance Minister Michel Sapin said that it was still reasonable for the country to aim for growth of 1.0% for the full year. While the International Monetary Fund also forecast 1% annual growth for France, most of the quarterly signals in the latest data from the statistics agency point downwards. Union leaders at South Africa's Marikana platinum mines urge striking workers to remain firm as companies seek to break a 4-month-long strike. AMCU union bosses lodged a case against the mining companies for luring workers back on an individual basis. According to the world's third biggest platinum producer, Lonmin, the strike slashed production by 43%, resulting in a revenue drop of $157 million for 6 months ended in March. But union members said they would remain on strike until they got the $1,200 basic pay they demand.
Even when they attend, to work, the money that they receive from the mines, it's little. That cannot even sustain them for the whole month. Hence, for them to go to work and not to be at work is just the same. So hence, they're pursuing the 12,500 as the basic salary, of which these companies, they can afford.
Qatar said it will abolish its controversial sponsorship system for foreign workers as international criticism mounts over their treatment. The sponsorship system, which is likened to modern-day slavery, will be replaced with a system based on employment contracts as part of a package of labor reforms. Qatar hires more than 1 million foreigners, making up 94% of the country's workforce. Human rights groups say workers typically have their passports confiscated upon arrival, and a large number never get paid. Widespread abuse is also alleged in the United Arab Emirates, where nearly 90% of all residents are foreigners.
The state of Qatar is concerned by workers' rights, and there are provisions in the current labor code on the rights of workers and collective negotiations. But you know that the state of Qatar has a labor market that does not look like other international markets, given the existence of a large number of foreign workers.
In Gaga in Western Central Africa, men, women, and children make a living in illegally run gold mines. But the escalating crisis in the country, the work becomes even more dangerous following attacks from armed groups. I-24 News journalist Daniel Roth has the report.
In the northwest of the Central African Republic, gold gives stamina to war. In Gaga, one of the areas most affected by the armed conflict, a 12-year-old child is digging a hole in the sandy soil.
We're here to find gold because you can make lots of money from it. That's why we quit school, to work in the mine.
For months, the Gaga mine has been controlled by the anti-Balaka Christian militia. In September 2013, ex-Seleka members took the mine and there was a massacre in which more than 200 were killed, according to the Red Cross. Still, danger lurks.
With this crisis, we can't work properly. While we work, people shoot at us and we have to run into the bush. We have just started again after these events.
There are few mixed farms. In Djibouti, 300 kilometers from Bangai, Christians and Muslims work together under the protection of former Seleka fighters.
If there are soldiers there, it's only to watch over the mines. But you don't see armed people surrounding us, not at all. It's to ensure security and to settle small disputes about hole boundaries and so on.
Each gram of gold is trading at $52 for the owners of the mine and $31 for miners. These are prices that may fall due to lack of demand.
There are no buyers here, no buyers at all. With the Central African problems, they have all fled.
These workers are hoping for a return to peace as they wash the earth in search of gold hidden in the dirt.
An insatiable world appetite for precious hardwoods is threatening Myanmar's jungles and the rare species that live there. The government has recently banned raw exports of timber, but conservationists say one of Asia's last areas of tropical forest could be lost unless more is done. Here's the report.
Once mighty forests turned to ash. Here in Myanmar's Bago Mountains, locals are burning the last remnants after logging firms swept across the landscape in search of precious hardwoods like teak. Everything now a smouldering ruin, and all the animals who lived here now gone. They plan to plant more trees, but these will take decades to grow.
They were cut down by timber companies. There used to be many beautiful trees.
Myanmar has some of the largest areas of pristine forest in Asia, providing shelter and food for rural communities. It's home to countless species, including the rare snub-nosed monkey, caught on film for the first time ever earlier this year. There are thought to be only around 300 left in the wild. Logging, both legal and illegal, exploded under the previous junta regime, fueled by corruption, cronyism and conflicts in border areas. The UN says the country lost almost 20% of its forest cover between 1990 and 2010. A new reformist government is supporting 2 national parks and has recently imposed a ban on raw log exports. But conservationists are sceptical.
Myanmar's illegal trade is huge, and right now we're monitoring trucks going across the border to China, and there are hundreds crossing every day, the largest that's ever been recorded in history. The problem is that Myanmar's borders are so large and so porous that it's very, very difficult to monitor.
As it opens to the world, Myanmar has a huge fight on its hands to stop the plundering of its natural resources and to protect what is left for future generations.
And now for a look at other reports we did not want you to miss in Media Watch with i24 News journalist Daniel Roth. Daniel, do enlighten us.
Well, we got a bunch today. We're starting with climate change. This is a big deal, obviously. Earlier this week, the news came down that a major ice sheet is melting in Antarctica.
Right.
And sea levels are going to rise about 10 feet, they say, which is really bad news for about 44% of humans who live on coastal.
What time they're expecting sea levels to rise?
It's not happening tomorrow. It's over the decades and even up to 200 years they're looking forward and sort of saying, look, we need to start thinking about what our cities are going to look like. And there's kind of 2 ways that this is happening. One of them is what we're seeing behind me is the sort of utopian visions of almost Venice-like cities that are kind of using the water to their advantage.
Right.
So kind of dealing with the fact that the earth is going to flood and making design fit that. Now, there's other examples, like The Guardian reported a couple of months ago.
Right.
Private company in Nigeria is working on a big walled-in city for 250,000 people who can afford it, which is very different from these kinds of utopian multi-purpose cities that use the water to their advantage. And, and there's even some stuff actually happening right now in Singapore. They're working on floating solar panels so that you don't need so much land to power the city. You can actually have the solar panels using renewable energy floating on the water.
It seems a little sad that we've just sort of said, okay, guys, this is going to happen no matter what, because we're not going to do anything to stop it from happening. So, hey, let's just start planning for all these things for the future.
Right, and it's ironic that we're calling it utopian, that we sort of,
Utopia, dystopia, what's the difference these days?
The U.S. Defense Department actually recently came out with a report saying that they're expecting for there to be violence in coming years over food and water being lost.
Right.
They're expecting that these floods are going to happen.
Right.
Now it's a matter, in some cases, of curbing how much damage we do, which is what the fight is about in the world, is about curbing the kinds of regulations we have.
Right.
But there are also people thinking ahead, saying, okay, worst case scenario, we have to redesign the way we live.
Now, obviously, we're looking also specifically here at cities that are on the mainland, a lot of big capital cities on the mainland, but like close to the coast where they actually have the money to build these things. Now, if we're talking about countries that don't have the means, and we're talking about island nations, forget about it.
Right, absolutely. And, we can actually use this as a jumping off point to talk about Elon Musk, who's one of the people out there doing stuff about this.
Right.
So there's this tweet. We're going to get that up for a second.
Okay.
Matt Inman, who does this cartoon called The Oatmeal, did a review of Tesla Motors.
Right.
He bought a Model S, and he says it's basically like driving in a spaceship. And this guy's a fan of Nikola Tesla, the guy whose AC electricity made it possible for Tesla Motors to invent the electric car. That's why it's called Tesla Motors. It's named after this inventor who died nearly 100 years ago, penniless and having been ripped off by Thomas Edison and various other people.
Right.
So actually, Elon Musk tweeted back saying, okay, look, you want to honor this guy? We're making billions of dollars using his name. Not that they legally owe anything, but they're going to throw down on the $8 million that it's going to be expected to build a museum in honor of Tesla in his upstate New York estate. So it's just a little good news, a little bit of honor for a guy who didn't get a lot of honor in his lifetime. And he's going to get a museum. And thanks to The Oatmeal cartoon.
Interesting. Jeez. Just people should be aware of the fact that that's where the name comes from, because probably your average person doesn't realize it. I would think that the fact that his name is on the car is certainly a very, very good thing for him.
Yeah, this is a guy who was a genius, spoke 8 languages.
Right.
He had tons of inventions under his name, but wasn't very good at business, and sort of got strong-armed out of control of a lot of the things he was working on. Most notably by Thomas Edison, whose name is much more well known.
Sure.
Speaking of business, the Fight for 15 is happening today, May 15th. Global movement to fight for a higher minimum wage and for fast food workers around the world to get benefits. Started in the U.S. over a year ago, and now it's spread to places like Japan and New Zealand. And
it's like in 150 different cities or something, 30 different countries. Isn't it something?
It's huge.
Like
it's huge. People are marching. And basically in the U.S., they're saying that fast food workers are getting such low wages that it's costing taxpayers up to $7 billion in paying for welfare and healthcare costs associated with fast food workers not making enough money.
Right.
So we're talking about something that's costing the public, and now the argument from the CEOs of the fast food companies is, look, we can't afford it. It's only a $200 billion a year industry. And, they're making millions and millions of dollars, and the average fast food worker's making, somewhere under $30,000 a year. The average worker is nearly 30 years old. We're not talking about teenagers.
Right.
So this is a huge fight that's spreading around the world, and it seems to be a real grassroots movement that's kind of pushing its way up and getting people to think about the way fast food workers are paid.
Right. It'll be interesting to see where that actually ends up.
Yeah, and finally, today the FCC should be making its announcement about net neutrality. Now, basically, this is a fight over whether companies should be allowed to charge other companies and individuals for access to faster internet. So right now, it seems that they're already doing this. They're slowing down internet, creating a market. And we've already seen in cases like California's electric industry that deregulation led to brownouts and costing people even more money. And that's what people are expecting if net neutrality is not upheld in the FCC's new rules, and if they don't kind of force the companies to treat the internet like a utility. That's what people are demanding from net neutrality, is that the internet be treated as a utility, essentially. Something that...
Well, don't treat me as a utility, because I'm going to have to go at this point. Thank you very much. Daniel Roth, that's it for us at The Economy Magazine today. I'm Benjamin Chong-Alvarez at I-24 News. Please continue to send us your comments and join us again tomorrow.